Okay, hello everyone. So we are going to start the episode 10. This is the last episode of the season 3 in Python. So today we are going to start to learn the very important the concept of the programming, which is called the data structure. There are a bunch of different ways to keep and store the data in program languages. So among them, we are going to see the first one, which is called the list. Okay, so before we start, please turn on your video. That will be really, really helpful to manage the class for me, and also the mute audio. Okay, so if you have any question, you can use the chat box. I think it's something the difficult time for the TA. So there are the final exam for the couple of TAs so cannot join the today. So I think that we do not have the any TA today. I'm going to take care the any question. If you have any questions, please use the chat box. Even though it's late to reply to your questions, so please be patient. Okay. And also, please download and unzip the Inyon Python zip file that will be used for uh, the during the class. Okay. So before we start, let me change the screen to this. Okay, so this is the Google map where I live in. So from here, so you can see the. Let me a little bit zoom in like this. This is my house, but you can see roughly that this is my the backyard and the front yard. There are road and like this. So I have a question about this. So here, so can you clearly find the, for example, here there is a house, the one house over here, another house over here. So can you find clearly the boundary of the each house? What do you think? Have you ever think about the house your parents probably pay for the tax based on the house the land size and the property size? So how do you know exactly what is the territory or the boundary of the house? Have you ever seen such a thing? Have you ever seen such a thing? No. So even sometimes I'm curious whether this is my house, this is the my neighbor the property, so on so. But there exists the exactly boundary or the territory of each house like that, but it's invisible. There's the if you go to the town has the document that clearly define longitude and latitude, the angle, and using the civil engineering such a thing, so you can find exactly the where is your land, which one is my land, which one is your land, like that. So that also happen in the computer system. So in computer system, let me close this one. So mm, then close this and the stop share. So can you see the bookshelf? So what is the analogy of this bookshelf in anyone Python? What's the meaning of the bookshelf? Do you remember that? So what is the meaning of the bookshelf in anyone Python? It's a memory, right? Very nice, Daniel. So as I'm using the bookshelf to organize my book, and actually it's not my book, my daughter's book, but you can see another of the fantasy book and such a thing. I never read such a thing, but to organize such a book, so I'm going to use the bookshelf. So similarly, in anyone Python and also in this the computer and the programming, the program language use such a bookshelves to store the data. Where? It's a memory. However, when you see this bookshelf, so you can easily find the book, like the first layer, second layer, third layer, and from the first layer, there are a number of books, so you can number, then you can find easily such a books. What about the memory? So have you ever thought about how does memory look like? How is the memory organized? Have you ever thought about it? Anyone? What does it look like? You can just imagine. What is the memory? Memory is like this one, or the different shape, or the different format. So what do you think? Any idea? Computer storage. Yes, it's a storage. So to store the data. So memory look like the what? The this one, the bookshelf, or the something, the storage in your backyard. So what does it look like? So any idea? So let me use this. So I don't think you are problem. So most of people they do not know how does the memory look like. So we don't have to know such a thing. But why don't you think about the way how does the memory really store the data? So let me use the this one. Oops. So where's it? Okay. So here. So actually memory is like this. It's the oops, it's my fault. Yes. Then finally this one. So memory is like the big the box like this. And this the do you remember the how does computer store the data? Eventually the data in a computer it is based on what? It's just the 0 or 1. It's a binary. So if we turn on the light, it's a 1. If we turn off the light, it's a 0. So using such a lot of the light bulb inside, we can represent, we can store the data. At that time, we need 8 of the such 0 or 1. Each of them is called a bit. Then, if we have the 8 bit, 8 times of bit, it is called. Anyone who knows what is the name of the such a data which has 8 bit of them? It's a byte, a very nice car. So we are using byte to store the very basic data like the 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, and the exclamation mark or question mark. To store the such a data, we need just the 1 byte. So when we store the data in a memory, so memory has bunch of bytes. It has really bunch of bytes. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1 bit, 1 byte, 1 byte, 1 byte. So for example, if you store the last name Lee, so Lee will be stored like this. Lee. Okay, it's like your house in the town in your land. So this is my house. This is your house. Then how do you know what is the boundary of your house? What is the territory of your house? How do you know that? How do you know? Are you going to use such the splitter or any idea? So are we going to use the fence in a memory? No, definitely we cannot use. Instead, computer use just like us. How do you know when you find your friend house? How do you know that? you are going to use the Google navigation with what? How do you search the direction to the friend house? GPS. When you are using the GPS, what do you type? Yes, right. So we are using address. So computer also use address. Memory. Memory is like the grid. It's not like this one even. It's just the grid. You cannot see it. There are a bunch of sensor and inside, then each sensor can store 1 byte of the data. But how do we know? So where is the data and what is the boundary? What is my house? At the time, we are using address. Address is even just the simple. First one is 0, and 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, like this one. But computer use not the decimal number. Instead, it use the hexadecimal number, which means 0 to 9 and A, B, C, D, E, F, 16-digit number. So this is the way how computer manage and store the data in a memory system. Okay, it's nothing but just such a grid style box, big storage. There's nothing there like your house, the property, the land. So there's no boundary, no fence, no line. Memory. Instead, we are going to use memory address to store the data at the time. So for example, when we create the variable in Python programming, so Python programming, so I'm using a lot of the so for example here, this is the anyone Python, the screen. So this is the memory. Actually, inside the memory, there are a lot of the grid and byte. This byte has the address. So using that address, so we can find where is the max days in a week and so on. Okay. Also, same thing happen when you create the function. Like we learned how to create the function before. So for example, I'm going to create the add function. If you create the add function also created on your memory with a territory, like your house. So this is called the namespace. So namespace is your land. So you know the song. This is your land, and this is my land, like that. This is the area for the add in memory. So this area is called the namespace. So when you create the variable inside, this variable will be created in your land, in your namespace. So why don't you open the Google, raise it like this. So why don't you open your browser, then search the namespace in Python. Why don't you search namespace in Python, then enter namespace, then click the images, then see what is the namespace. So namespace is the area when you create a Python program. It's the boundary, like if you decide to live and buy a house, so you have your land. Okay. Similarly, when you create a Python program in your memory, so your land will be created. That land is called the namespace. There are different names of the namespace. You can see the first image like this one. One is the local, another one is called the global, and third one is the built-in. Believe it or not, we already learned this one, built-in namespace. What will be the built-in? What's the meaning of a built-in? Built-in means it's a default. So like for example, the str function. So str, even though I didn't create the str, it's already in your Python. It's a built-in. And also, what about the len function? Did you create the len function? Lance? No, but it was there already in the built-in namespace. So built-in namespace is kind of the public place. So everybody can use, even though you do not pay any tax, you do not purchase the house, you are able to use like the public park, like that, or public transportation. So this is called the built-in namespace. Then when you create your own Python program, your Python program is called the local namespace. So for example, if you create the main function, so main local namespace will be created. It's a main, okay? So if you create the add function and add, the namespace will be created. So it's a very strict. So let me go back to this one. So if you see this one, so this is a very strict. So add function, and this is the main function. So their area are different, like this. So this is the main, and this is the add. You cannot actually bother. So for example, what if you enter the other people property? Can you do that? No. Without permission, you cannot enter private property. Okay, even though there's no fence, there's nothing, but you cannot unless the owner allow. So it's the same thing in computer programming. So Python, you cannot actually enter the other place, even though there is no fence, no barrier, so you cannot enter. It's a very, very strict. So that is called the namespace. So in this, the namespace, so whenever you create a Python code and variable, it will be created within such a memory space namespace. However, there is the exception that is called, we have seen this one, the global namespace. So global namespace is the area. So any the namespace, any user, any program, any function can access such a global namespace. So today I'm going to introduce such a global namespace, which is the global variable. So global variable is the anyone can access. It's a variable, it's a storage, but it can be accessed by anywhere in your program. Okay, that's the only exception of this one, exception of the namespace. So let's see the example first. So in this program, the first the Python, the problem, the episode 10 problem is the globalspy. So we are going to put the input value for the balance. Then the input, if the input is 0, then we can exit. Anyone who remember what is the name of this one? The 0. If you want to exit the loop, we are going to use a special value. So what is the name of this value? Anyone who remember? We used the -1 before, but this time, so we are going to use the 0. So what is the name of this special variable to exit the loop? No hint? Breakpoint? Good guess. So it's your homework after this, okay? So why don't you check your while loop? The while we are learn the while loop, we have practiced the special value. So if we use enter 0, then exit. Then we are going to print the total balance over here. For example, here the initial balance is 100 and the next 200. Then if you type the 0, exit the loop of deposit, and total 300 will be the display. So this is our goal. It looks like the easiest. So I already create the program. Why don't you open the PyCharm and the project for episode 10. Okay, then open the program globalspy file. So here's the program. So we'd like to create the while loop. Here's the while loop, right? So here's the while loop. So we keep receive the deposit value until 0. Okay, so 0 is there's a special name to exit break the while loop. Why don't you search, find the name of this one? It's for your homework for by the next season. Okay, then so we are going to get the input value. It's the initial balance. This is because of what? Fence post problem. So we should have the one more such as the input. This is a fence post problem. So we have one more time the input as an initial value. Then we keep receive the value. Then finally we are going to display the total balance. At this time, what our idea is, so we are going to create the global variable. So how can we create the global variable? Just create the variable outside the function. Then this variable is considered as the global variable. Very simple. So we can create the balance. So balance is the global variable. So we have used a similar thing before. Do you remember this one? So what's the name of this variable? I know today is the last day of the season 3, so you are so sad. But we are going to focus on the last thing. I think today's lecture will be the most difficult part of the season 3, but also very important to continue the success in Python programming. So do you remember the name of this variable is the capital letter, and usually we define at the beginning. Anyone who knows the name of this? Snake? Snake is the name of a case. There's the answer over here. It's called the constant variable. The constant variable means what? It's as name implies, it's a constant. So it will not be changed as long as you use this program. So, for example, number of days in a week is a 7. It will not be changed. So we are going to use this constant variable anywhere in your program. Like what? Like the global variable. So global variable is the same thing. So you can define the variable outside the main function, outside any other function. Then the value can be accessed anywhere, like this, anywhere. So this is called the global variable. So let's try to understand the code. I already create the code, so it will be easy to understand for you. So there's a main And so main is getting the initial value and while loop. Then the amount will be input of the deposit. So deposit is the function. So using the short operation, the plus, the balance will be added. Balance equal balance plus amount. So amount will be added to the balance. So where is this balance? The balance is here. So this one is balance. So it will be added. Then finally, this will be printed as a balance. So where's this balance? So this balance is also here. So this is our idea. So why don't we run the program? So how can we run the program? Python 3, and this is a global, the P1, and run it. So initial balance is 100, and deposit 200. And what happened? What happened? So please run the program, then you will see error. Then what will be the problem of this one? You can always check here error message, unbound local error, local variable balance reference before assignment. Meaning is, so here there's no problem over here. So you are able to access the balance. So you are able to access the balance anywhere. So the plan is that we are going to add the amount to the balance. However, in Python, if you want assign the value to the global variable, it will not be global. It will be local variable. Okay? Why? I do not know. But it is like that. So Python actually consider if you want to add the certain value or assign the value to the global variable, so it will be considered as the local. So that is the reason the balance is the local variable. Even though we create the global variable, but it is considered as the local. So it will be error. So how can we address that problem? How can we? So this is the one way you can actually define as the global like this. Then suddenly the red underline is gone. So it will be okay. But this is not recommended. And also Python, as you can see, if I use the global variable, it looks like the simple, but as you can see, a lot of complicating. So because of that, so you don't have to worry about what is the global variable, how to use. Don't worry. Forget about the global variable. So global variable is not recommended in Python program, any other program. Why? As you can see, just like this one. So if you think about your neighborhood, if you are able to access something in your neighborhood and change it, and it will be messed up. So it is private. So it is good idea if you do not bother an other territory, other naming space. So if you are using global variable, it will be messed up. So your program code will be messed up. So global variable is not recommended. Then how can we address that problem? Instead, we are going to remove any global variable. Okay. Then we are going to use balance here. Then as the parameter value, balance. All of them are local value. Okay. Then balance and return balance. And we are going to assign the new balance as a balance, then like this one. So why don't you change your code like this? So we are not going to use global variable. Instead, we are going to use all local variable. So balance over here is a local variable of deposit function. And balance in the main is the local variable of the main function. So this balance is only within main, like this. So the balance is the free to use in this the main function. And balance here, even though names are the same, they are different. So it's a local variable here. But how can you get the balance from the deposit to the main? Using return that we have learned. So this is the much better way when you are doing the programming. It's not only for the Python, any program languages. So please change your code and run your program. I will give a couple of minutes and see. So how can you run the program? The Python 3 global, then the initial 100. Next, the deposit 200, 300, then the 0, then 600 will be returned. So this is a correct one. So why don't you change your code? You are not going to, from now on, please do not use the global variable unless that is the constant. Constant is okay because you are not going to change the value of constant. So constant is okay. So you are not going to use global variable from now on. Only local variable. Okay, so why don't you change the globals.py file without using the global variable and run your program. If you are good, so please give me a thumbs up. If you have any question, please ask to the Trinity or the using chat box. First, comment the global variable, the balance we are not going to use. Instead, we are going to use the local variable balance. For each main, use the balance, and deposit, use the balance. Imagine, even though it still looks like ambiguous, like for example, the very common names, my son name is Nicholas, and my friend has the name Nicholas son. So it may be okay because they are in the different family, different house. So even though we are using the same name balance, but this balance is belongs to main and this balance belongs to the deposit. This is called the namespace. Okay. So please modify and change the globalspy file, then run your code, then give me a thumbs up if you are done. Okay, Brandon, very good job. Nice work. Anyone else? So simply, if you don't understand clearly what is the global variable and such a thing, so forget about, just remember I'm not going to use the global variable, except the constant variable. That's it. Then everything is in the local variable. Local variable exists where? Local namespace. Local namespace means in memory, it's like this main territory. And this is a deposit territory. So deposit namespace, main namespace, like this. Okay. So this is the global variable and with namespace. That will be very important to understand the later, the list, which is called the mutable and immutable data type. Probably we will discuss a lot that season 4, if any. Okay, so I believe that all of you did this problem one. So let's quickly review what's the problem and how we can solve the problem with the Anyone Python screen. So global variable, it will be defined outside the function like this one. So this is a global variable. So if you want to access this global variable, just use it. So you can access this and you can access this. Okay, it looks like the simple. So if you see the using the Anyone Python script, it's like this. So it's the same location as the constant variable. So it will be accessible anywhere in your program. It looks good, but however, reality is not so good. Why? Because sometimes it will be messed up like this way. It will not be considered as the local variable. So how can we address the problem? So we are going to use the all local variable. Here, there's no balance. So there is no balance outside, only balance inside, and only balance inside. Instead, to send this balance to the main, we can use the return of the function that we learned before. So this is the way to address the problem of that. Then finally, we are going to learn the list. So think about the for loop. While we learn the for loop, so for loop has the keyword for and in. Then x is called the index variable, and this part y at the time we called this is the collection. Okay, so collection of the data. Collection means like the what if I have the family member, then name will be okay. However, if I have the two family member name 1 and name 2. What if I have the 100 family? It's a big, huge family. How can we store the 100 family members name 1, 2, and 100 like this? This is not a convenient way. So instead, we are going to create a collection of such a name. So in one variable. So this time, so YYY is the collection. So it can be collection of the string name. It will be collection of the value. So among the collection, today we are going to learn the list. The list is, as name implies, list of the data. That's it. Okay. So we will see what will be the list. So this can be defined as this. So why don't you read loudly at your home? So what is a list? A list is a way to keep track of an ordered collection of items. Okay, what does that mean? So we will see one by one. First one, item. Item means if you have the value a lot, like the element, name 1, name 2, name 3, name 100. So that is the item. If you have the many items, then we are going to create a list. Then collection. Collection means all together, not separately. So we are going to manage the name 1, name 2, name 3 all together as a name. This will contain multiple items, multiple elements. But here is the important thing. It's an ordered collection. So order means, so name 1 has the first one. index number 0. Name 1 is the index number 0. And 1, 2, like that, there is an index number in order, in list. So here's the quick question. Why computer use the 0 as the first index number rather than 1? Why computer use the 0? You will see a lot of such a thing. Computer always start the 0, 1, 2, 3, not like the 1, 2, 3. So why computer use index number 0 as the first index number? Today is very quiet. Anyone? You can use the chat box to answer. So why the computer use the 0 as the first index number? It's because this is another homework. Why don't you search the Google and find why? Why computer likes to start always the 0, not like the 1. Okay. So anyway, it is true the computer index number, Python also same thing, use the 0 as a starting index number. So 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay. So let's start to create the list. So how to create the list? So to create the list, we are going to use the bracket. So you can find this one from the next to P keyboard. If you find the P, alphabet P, and next to P, you can find the left bracket and right bracket. So we are going to use this bracket. Also, list is the list of elements. So how can we separate? Using comma and comma and comma. Okay, so let's the doing is better than the just lecture. So why don't you open your Python console? Why don't you open the Python console? Then, so just so you can do here, my list is the what? This is a variable name, which means list name. List is also variable name. Then we are going to use a sign, equal sign. Then using bracket and comma, we can create it. It's so simple. If you want to create the my list 1, 2, 3, so just 1, 2, 3 with a bracket. How? So open your Python console, then the list 1, 2, 3. Enter. Then what happened? If you take a look at right hand side, you will see my list is 1, 2, 3 is created. In your memory, it will be like this way. Okay, so you can see on your memory, the list of value will be allocated. Okay, next to each other. So next season, if I have a chance to offer the Annual Python season 4, we will see more the interesting thing. This will be actually the heap area. It's called the heap. But right now, you don't have to worry about this. So just 1, 2, 3 will be created on your memory and next to each other in order. And also one more thing, index number is automatically assigned. Not from 1, it's from 0. So 0, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3. So 1 is index number 0. And 2 is index number 1. 3 is index number 2. Over what? The my list. So my list 0 is 1. My list 1 is 2. My list 2 is 3. Okay. So here is the index 0, 1, 2. Then the index 0 is 1. Index 1 is 2. Index 2 is 3, like this. Okay, then why don't you create the list on your the Python console? You can type and see what's going on your right hand side. You can also create the list for the string, not only for the number. For example, here's the str as the list with lots of and strings in list. What happened? You can see on your right hand side, str. The index 0 is the last, the first one, and the 1 of second one, and so on. Also, it doesn't have to be only number. It doesn't have to be only the string. It can be mixed one, like this, for the mix. For hello. Even it has the true. True is the value of what? Boolean. So you can create. And what if nothing? Empty list. How can we create the empty? Just the bracket only without any element. Then it will be like this. You can always check with the right hand side what's going on. If you are done, please give me thumbs up. Yes, very nice. Okay, very good. Here's another interesting. If you are done, please take a look at this part. When you create the string as an element, actually string itself is also list. So if you create a LOTS, form one list inside, and the of is also inside the string and a list, and the strings is the list like this, STRI like that. So it is true. String actually is based on the list. So string itself is the almost the same, not exactly the same, but almost the same as the list. Okay, very nice. Then how can I access the each element separately? So for example, why don't you create the letters like this? Letters, the list with the value A and B, oops, and C, D, E, and the right bracket. Then you can create the letters. Okay. Then, as I said, each element is indexed. Automatically, whenever you create, zero index number will be assigned in order. So B is 1, and C is 2, and so on. 3, 4. So this is the index number. So if you want to access like this, what about the letters? The 0. Then it is the A, right? So you can check with the right hand side your memory. 0 is A. So A will be returned. What if you wanna return the D, you can letters and bracket 0, 1, 2, 3. So you can give the 3 like this. It's a D like this. So because when you create the list on your memory, A, B, C, D, E in order. Here's a question. How do you know where is the starting of the letters? This is slightly difficult, the question, but you are able to find the answer. How can you find the location of the letter in your memory? Python, how does the Python know where is the starting of the letter and return the first index like this? Anyone? We already see the answer before. In your memory, the only way to find the location of the data is actually address. So we are going to use the address. So if you just type the letters, so it return the address of the starting of the letter, then the display the in order like this. So address will be used. Okay. So then if I am able to access each one, can I change the value of element? Yes, you can. For example, if you want to change the first A by the X, you can give letters and the 0. First one is X. Enter, then you are able to see the change over here. Also, you can print letters, the 0. Then it's a change to the X. You can change directly. Also, I want to know the number of elements. In other words, length of the list over here. So in this case, the length is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 5. So you can print the length of the letters. So we can use the built-in function we learned today. It's a built-in namespace. It has the len function. So you can display the file. Okay. So last thing. So today I'm going to stop here. The one last thing is because of the characteristic of the index, we are able to use such a list with the for loop really a lot. This is one of the most important part in anyone Python, the season 3. So you are able to use the for loop with the list. So for example, in this case, I'm going to display the index number and is the letter. How can you do that? So let's try. We already create the list. So for loop I in range. So it starts from what? The 0 to 4, which means the 5. But instead, we can give the letters. Okay. Then print I, then letters of one by one for each I. Okay. Then, oh, I forgot the S. One more time. I and letters. Then you will see the such output. So 0 is the index number. It's the 0. Letters 0 is the X. And letters 1 is the B and so on. So it is really useful. And I think that you are going to use a lot such a pattern. For loop with the list. Okay. So why don't you remember? Then for future use. I'm going to stop here. So today's actually when I plan the season 3, I expect not covering the list, but only the control statement and the loop statement only. But it is not easy to separate such a list and the other data structure from the such the control statement and especially for loop. So that is the reason I very briefly introduce. If you are interested, if you want to know more about the list, you can use the some sample code that I provide the list parameter and the average score. Then hopefully, if I have a chance to offer the next season, I'm going to start from the list. Okay. Uh, so far it is the the episode. It is last episode, and the last 10 weeks. I really appreciate for your help, and uh, I know it's not easy to participate in the every week and especially the Friday night. I really appreciate for your the hard work and your the cooperation. I think that at least if you the join the all 10 episode, that is your success. You can proud the of yourself. And also so more importantly, I really appreciate the TAs, even though today we have only the Trinity here. Trinity, could you say something to the anyone Python student before we wrap up?
Well, good job, guys, for making it to the end. Although everyone's been asking less questions, but I'm assuming that's just because you understand Professor so well. But I hope you guys continue learning Python and go out and make something cool with it.
Thanks so much, Trinity, and uh, I wish you join wherever you want. Just then continue to work for the computer and computer science and the programming. I no doubt your success. Thanks so much. And regarding to the next, the Anyone Python, I do not have any plan. So today I reserve, make an appointment for my vaccine. So which means the pandemic is almost over. So then we will back to the normal. Then pretty much that will be end of Anyone Python. But so we have a lot of things to do, so it depends on my situation and the other the circumstance. Then hopefully we will meet again in anyone Python 4. In that case, I will definitely email to everyone to invite again. Otherwise, please be safe. Even though it's uh, the end of the pandemic, I don't think we will back to the really normal like the year ago. So, but it's yourself to protect yours. First thing is healthy, and when you have a time, please study a little bit more about the program language and to know about the computer. So that is the purpose of the Python. And thanks so much, Sophia, and you have a great weekend. Thank you.